Without further ado, he's at the hotel we stayed at, sitting by the fireplace. He's going to have a fireside chat with you. He's hails from Dallas, Texas. The gentleman is also known as the backbone and posture man that set us straight, goes out to the malls and get names and numbers like you wouldn't believe. He's got 15 in the last couple of days since he left Dallas to get up here to Lake Tahoe. But anyway, without further ado, sitting at the inn that we stayed at there at the fireplace, have a fireside chat with you. The great, the one and only, the great Mr. Sam Foster.
Come on. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? I got other teammates still here, Mr. Thomas. We're headed over in a few minutes. We're live, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Thomas is in the background. Pastor Thomas is back here. I don't know if you guys can see him. So we're trickling in, Mr. Thomas. We'll be there soon. I want to go ahead and do it live on location with a fireside chat, ladies and gentlemen, so you can see two locations. Mr. Thomas is on site. I'm on site back here at the hotel. So we tag teaming. All right. So if you guys are taking notes, we're going to do a fireside chat. We're just going to sit back, relax. We're going to talk about a few things. And if you're taking notes, ladies and gentlemen, write this down. 2 words. Check yourself. Check yourself. Plain and simple. Check yourself. All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay. What we want to do, ladies and gentlemen, we want to make sure that we're checking ourselves. All right. Now, to be totally honest with you, this was my first time coming to this event. It was on point. It was spot on. We're on day 2. Last night was a blast. Yesterday was a blast. The whole day was a blast. I'm not going to take anything from the event. Of course, Mr. Lewis just said that we're doing the Impact Share. That's coming up next week. We got a lot of other things coming up. I'm interested to see what Mr. Tony Cooper is going to talk about in a few minutes. So all of this is coming as we speak, as we're doing it live. But I want to use the word check yourself because, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you realize this, but we have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. But the reason why I said check yourself, and I'm talking to me too, ladies and gentlemen, not just talking to you guys, I'm talking to me as well. If we're not checking ourselves, what are we doing? What are we doing in ACN? What are we doing individually? What are we doing to check ourselves to make sure that we go to the next level? I don't care how large it is. I don't care how small it is. We have to be positioning ourselves to check ourselves. And one of the things that we need to recognize is, ladies and gentlemen, we have to put ourselves in a position to win. All right. We can no longer afford to come to this event or any other event that we do and go back home the same. I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself as well. This is a fireside chat. This is meant to be as humble as possible, but we have to check ourselves because what we have coming in ACN, if we don't win with what's coming, we didn't want to win. Plain and simple, we didn't want to win. Because if you guys see what's coming ahead of you, not only will you check yourself, but you would check everybody that you know going forward. Because we have things in place that are coming that's going to supersede anything that we've done on top of the things that we've already done. So we have things coming from all directions. Mr. Tony Coopers was so excited last night, I thought he was going to pop out of his skin. I've never seen this man so excited, and he said he's never been so excited since they started ACN. So that's powerful within itself. I mean, he couldn't contain himself. He was itching, chopping at the bit. So I can only imagine what he's going to feed us today. But to the individuals that did not come, I understand sometimes extenuating circumstances, it's all the above. But what are you going to do now that, to the people that's here, what are we going to do going forward? Number one, what are you going to do, even though you were not here? What are you going to do going forward? All this information that's coming to us. Okay. Now, when I say check yourself, we can't afford to come to these events, go back home and get high for 3 days. That's right. That's right. Get high for 3 days. Usually it's about 72 hours. We'll talk about it. We'll say, oh, we did this, we did that. Oh, the speaker was great. We got all these notes now, all this information. We got enough bullets to shoot the gun. But all of a sudden, after the first 3 days, gun gets jammed. We're not doing anything. We're not going forward. We're not pushing ourselves. We're not talking to other people. We're making excuses for stuff that we can do. So I decided to say to myself, well, let's go back to the basics for a second. Okay, Sam, what are the basics? Okay, let's do this. Let's try this on for size. If you're an ACN, do you have your own services? Do you have your own services? Let's start just with basic 101. If you do a service like electricity in your state, do you have your own electricity? If you do cell phone service, Flash Mobile, do you have Flash Mobile? So the basics ought to be in place right now. Now, you should be thinking to yourself, if I do these services, why am I not a producer of these services internal first before I go talk to anybody? And I know a lot of times people say, well, it's easy for some people. No, it's not easy for some people. Consistency is the key for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're an SVP or a CQ. Consistency for everybody. I've seen Mr. Thomas chit chat with people from day one we get here. I've been doing the same thing. I just didn't get 15 people just sitting around. As a matter of fact, let me give you guys a little story. When I first came into the resort, I saw Mr. Thomas sitting outside. And he was squinched down a little bit, so a couple of other leaders was around him. And all of a sudden, I said, that looks like Mr. Thomas. So I go outside and I talked to Mr. Thomas. And Mr. Thomas, he stopped me for a minute. And he said, close your eyes. Told me close my eyes. And he said, just sit here for about 3 or 4 minutes. No talking. Let the sun hit your face. Lock in. And I sat there for about 3 or 4 minutes. And he started saying a couple other things, very motivational. We had the lake in the background. It was beautiful. He said, you can be doing this too. In other words, you can be free. All right? Then I started thinking about it. I said to myself, this is one person's lifestyle all the time. In other words, this person doesn't have to check in to any boss. He doesn't have to trade time for dollars. He doesn't have to worry about getting a tip called a paycheck. Then I thought about it. I say, well, I'm fortunate enough to be up here. And I said to myself, instead of basking in the moment and allowing myself to get high, for lack of a better word, I'm around here. I've never been here before. Why don't I come outside my comfort zone and go around this area and start picking people on foot? Now, as a result of that, ladies and gentlemen, I go into Whole Foods and I pick about 5 or 6 people. I was in there for about an hour. And I thought to myself, my first rule of thumb was, and I get those voices too. My inner voice said, well, you may not want to do it up here. These are affluent individuals up here. But I found something out, ladies and gentlemen. I found out that these individuals up here, although they may have another comma behind their checks, a lot of them are still getting checks. In other words, they're trading time for dollars. Now, they may have another zero behind their check or a couple, but at the end of the day, they, for the most part, are working for other people. So if somebody gets mad at them, ladies and gentlemen, or they rub them the wrong way, they can fire them. They can literally fire them. Then they back to square one, going to try to find a job to replace the job that they had. They're in no more position than anybody else. Then I thought about it. I said, well, why don't I just have a conversation with a few people? Well, a few people turned out to be, I think I left out of Whole Foods, ladies and gentlemen, that day alone, day one, with 8 names and numbers. 8. And these are people that are corporate execs and things of that nature. But I found some out, ladies and gentlemen, all the way up here in Lake Tahoe. Anybody can be time broke. And if you start explaining what we do as a company, as an organization, not only do people relate to it, large or small, but everybody, for the most part, wants to not have to trade time for dollars. I don't care how much they're making. If they're trading time for dollars, they still have to reply to somebody. They still have to report to somebody. If I'm not mistaken, Al Thomas doesn't have to do that. So as a result of him talking to me, ladies and gentlemen, I stopped him. I said, Mr. Thomas, I don't mean any harm, but I have to go. So I left Mr. Thomas and went to Whole Foods. I went to Whole Foods. I went to CVS. I went to all these little mom and pop shops. And I'm still here doing it now as we speak. I'm picking the Uber drivers. I'm picking the taxi drivers. I'm picking, I got the cleaning crew here in the hotel. It does not matter. And before we sit here and say, oh, we're going to kill it, Impact Share is coming. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you have not been doing something before Impact Share, what makes you think you're going to get on your high horse going forward? Remember, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So you may want to make up in your mind now, because we got a tsunami coming. We have a tsunami coming next week. And if you have not checked your back office, we have all kind of things coming in the pipeline. But if you're not willing to come outside of your comfort zone to make sure that these things happen for you and your family, you're gonna miss out. This is not a bash session. I'm not trying to be above anybody else. I'm just having a real fireside chat about what we need to be doing individually as well as collectively when it comes to our organization and ACN as a whole. It's a gut check time, ladies and gentlemen. It's a gut check time. This is nice. The atmosphere is nice. All these things are beautiful. But if we're not seeking to try to get to a level of an RVP or SVP where we can do this on a regular basis and bless other people, what are we doing? So I impose upon everyone going forward up until next week. If you know you hadn't done the basics, go back to the basics. Nothing wrong with reloading. Go back to the basics. Let's make sure that we have these services that we do. So when we do get in front of individuals, we can honestly say, this is what, because you have to produce after your own kind. And if you're not producing after yourself, what are we doing? Because next week is going to come. 2-3 days after that, what are you doing after that? What are we doing to push our business forward? Will our numbers move? Not only our numbers now, but would our rank move? You got to remember now, we're trying to move forward. In order to do that, we can't stay in the past. We can't blame everybody. We can't sit back and say, my upline did this, my downline let me go. And that does not matter. The way this comp plan is set up, ladies and gentlemen, you can win on your own. You can win on your own. Yeah, it helps to have a team. It helps to leverage yourself. There's nothing wrong with leverage. But you have to check yourself enough to say, what am I doing? Am I maximizing me first before I go talk to anybody? It's not about all the people that you talk to, because if you're not believing in yourself, what difference does it make? Literally, what difference does it make? So we have to make sure that we're checking ourselves before we go to anybody else in our organization. Am I maximizing what's going on in me? So if you're doing that, the comp plan is excellent. Then it spreads itself abroad when it comes to team members and things like that. Yeah, some people are not going to listen to what you have to say. That's not who you're looking for. Remember, I say this all the time. You're not looking for everybody. You're looking for somebody. And then somebody looks for somebody. And then you'll look around and you have your huge organization of leadership. It does no good to have all these people in your organization if you don't identify leadership. Because if you're not identifying leadership, sometimes you're going to be doing this with no results or limited results. We don't want that. We want momentum. So as I'm sitting here now, ladies and gentlemen, you got the other team members down the street. We're coming together. We've learned a lot, and we have a lot to share with everybody. But before we do that, I want us to check ourselves. Because if we check ourselves, we won't wreck ourselves. And then individuals that come into our organization, they'll duplicate what we do. And then that's the true meaning of leverage. That's the true meaning of leverage. You can't ask anybody to do something that you're not doing. Now, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, then leadership will find you because it's in the ingredients of consistency. That's how this works, ladies and gentlemen. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to be consistent and persistent when it comes to what we do. Because we're out here by ourselves. We're the Lone Rangers. And if we do it right, if we really do it right with a consistent attitude, we won't leave anything on the table and we won't leave nothing to chance. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this has been a fireside chat. I didn't want to be on here long because I wanted to get the nuggets that's falling from the table, but I wanted to make sure that I got on here and I started this month off right with a fireside chat, with an opportunity to tell you guys, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I've been truly motivated. We're out here on the West Coast. We're showing our West Coast brothers and sisters, Nacians, some mad love, but we want to go back fired up. I don't care where you at on this call. I don't care what level you're at on this call. It does not matter. It starts from now. Check yourself. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll turn the call back over to you, Mr. Thomas. Much love, and I'll see you in about maybe 10 minutes.